So before I start the video, like it and sub if you want, who cares? Alright, so this is my review of AEW Dynamite for the May 2nd show. Ratings are back up at like 700. A lot of people are taking this as a positive, but Dynamite used to have a constant of like 800k. This is bad, especially coming from coast to coast. I thought the ratings were gonna at least go back up to like 7.5 or like almost 8k. But no, it's 700k. That's not good yet, but I believe AEW are heading at the right direction. We have multiple storylines that are starting to heat up, but some of those can just fizzle out just like that, depending on what happens further down the line. So yeah, that's what this Dynamite was. The standard of the wrestling is not as high as it usually is. It's not as high as Collisions. They effectively heated up the top two programs / storylines of the entire company. So yeah, let's get to the first of those two programs, Swerve's next opponent. And I like that we get it because of the statements that Swerve gave last week. It's a response by the Young Bucks. It supports the whole ecosystem thing. Christian's motives are consistent with past events. Like, yes, they did team up with each other. They lost. And we have like Swerve's past mistakes catching up to him. It's like he has to overcome his like heel past in order to become this babyface right now. It's actually pretty compelling storytelling. And of course, you get Christian to insert his old father gimmick, which slides on nicely with the promo last week about Swerve's daughter. But I don't like Swerve getting beat down right away. Yeah, Swerve is outnumbered, but there is a plot hole. A big 3-person sized plot hole called the Mogul Embassy. And you can't excuse the absence of Gates of Agony because they're in Ring of Honor, I think. But Brian Cage was in the show. He had a match. A babyface can be brave and face off 3 guys, but you have to keep them from being dumb and like too honorable. Like, Swerve's a smart character. If something like this happens, it would be characteristic for Brian Cage to come out and help. Damned his match to come. He should have come out to help even if he just ran out Christian Cage. I thought they would delay something like this. Maybe do a story where the Moguls broke up, or somehow they sided with the Elite against their will or not. It would have been a great storyline to finally bring them up. But yeah, it's never too late. They can explain this away next week. I just don't like this move. The same effect could have been had if they just had a promo battle. Christian can like bring up all of Swerve's mistakes, all of his sins, and then have Swerve like in doubt of himself. That would have been, I think, the best way for this first segment between them to go. Oh yeah, and I forgot. Tony Khan's not here. So before this segment, you had him explain why he was gone. So yeah, sorry about that. I'm going to talk about this next. So like I said last week, it's a way for the Elite to be more threatening since they now have control. I like the explanation on why he can't take control. I like that the Elite can just like cut him off, cut off his broadcast, and then they would have full power. All of this is good. All of this is like a twist on the usual faction takes over company storyline. I approve of this, but the only thing I don't like here is that Tony Khan is a bit too okay with it. He should be a bit more combative, like a bit more down or angry that he's been taken out, that he's been kept from his dream. So apparently they've taken his phone away as well, since he isn't tweeting. But since Tony's known for the tweets, maybe have him tweet against the Young Bucks, or just have him react negatively to being attacked. Or you know what, we all expect it, have him say that he was scared for his life. So after this is the Cope Open against Buddy Matthews. And this is exactly how I booked Copeland in TEW. Him going up against each of the members of the House of Black, with Malachi being at the end at the pay-per-view and eventually losing, of course. I had Roosh take the title away from him because I like Roosh. Roosh is like one of the top 10 of AEW. He's a real star. But yeah, this story has been going on for 2 pay-per-view cycles, and I guess it makes sense if you had him face each member of the House of Black, Copeland. But I would have appreciated a more creative way to do this, like a more creative way for Malachi to do his mind games on Copeland. It's a bit stereotypical on how he does it here, like turning him to the dark side. Bruh, this man had a live sex celebration. He has done some awful things as a heel in the WWE. He was like top 1, top 2 heel back in the day. I think he's even like more evil than Malachi. Yeah, he was part of the Brood. Unless you incorporate that in the storyline. This will be just like any Malachi feud. But that would totally kill House of Black. But yeah, enough of that. Let's see how the storyline goes. But for the match itself, What the hell was this? It was a 20-minute slow snooze fest. What the hell was going on here? You have one of the best wrestlers ever in Adam Copeland against a very underrated Buddy Matthews. I slept through the first half of this and then woke up and then rewatched the whole match again, which I now regret. Like, the purpose of the match was to emphasize the damage to Buddy's abdomen, but you didn't have to drag it for 20 minutes if you were just gonna have a slow ass quote-unquote storyteller just like AJ Styles had with Shinsuke Nakamura. This is like very much within that sort of match. I like Buddy's selling. I like that Cope just kept targeting his abdomen, spear finish. But yeah, I don't think these guys jive very much. I don't think they have chemistry. So yeah, my rating for this is TV undercard. So yeah, after this is another surprising match that's here on Dynamite. Joe just lost the title. He could use a break, but I guess he's old, so he doesn't want to waste time. That's some sound reasoning if that's the reason. It was a simple squash between him and someone who's like not a jobber but doesn't win much, like Isaiah Cassidy. This could have been on Rampage, honestly, since this didn't progress anything. He should have had like some promo time explaining his new goals. But yeah, for me, you just had to keep him off TV for just like 2 weeks, a pay-per-view cycle, have him be in a storyline next month or something. But yeah, this was really pointless. I didn't like this. You could have had Will Ospreay here. Or you know what better is if they cut the Copeland match in half or like down by 8 minutes and just gave Will Ospreay a match against anyone. Against Kip Sabian, the now cut Ethan Page, or like just anyone. Beast Mortos, anyone. It would have been better than fucking having Samoa Joe here. So after this is the Sky Blue promo of her challenging Willow Nightingale for Rampage. And this is Sky's worst attribute. This promo was so vanilla, it's so monotonous. Even Dante with his like weird awkward promo style is a lot much better than this, but he's gotten better. Sky needs some character. You can't just have her do a Julia Hart impression without a little more something there. So yeah, gotta work on that, Sky. Because you know who like was like this before? Anna Jay. And now she's a lot better. So yeah, just give Sky Blue some time to work on her promos. Maybe have it on a Collision instead of here, since this is your main show, which got 700k versus the usual 800k. Come on. So after this is the Orange Cassidy promo. Now this is how you do it. This is the best Orange Cassidy promo he's ever done. It's the most serious that he gets, and you can feel the emotion through his shades. Even if he doesn't go over the top, cry, and say a catchphrase or something. This was really authentic, while staying in character. The man is evolving right in front of our eyes. It's like he's trying to be Old Orange, but he can't anymore. That's character development. And the content of the promo was shocking. I didn't think Chuck Taylor was gonna quote-unquote retire. He might not. He might like have a return, we'll see. But the dude is 38 and hasn't won a tag team championship yet or any championship in AEW. I feel he has like a lot left to do. He's not reached his full potential yet in AEW. So this was really compelling as like a from the start AEW fan. Trent has always been the best promo, like versus the rest of them. All three of them are pretty much the same in the ring, like same level of quality or like capable of the same level. They're all really good. But Trent can promo. And now Orange is trying to get up there. And then we get the swerve. Don Callis was observing the beatdown last week, and we thought he was scouting Trent. But instead he was scouting Orange, which is so damn interesting. This was like my second moment of the night, since holy shit, we have a heel who's gonna go up against a heel-backed babyface who's going to destroy him with that faction. He's gonna learn from Callis, he's gonna beat up Trent, and he's gonna prove Trent right, and that's wishful thinking. I hope that's the way it goes. It adds a new dimension to this storyline, which I really like. So next is we have the recurring main story, The Elite, a Jack Perry promo. This is the best he's sounded ever. A lot less vanilla than before. And straight to the point, it's a declaration of intent. Not really surprising. We all expected this with Tony Khan. Now we need Khan's response. And it needs to be as eloquent as this. So yeah, after this is the controversial Chris Jericho versus Katsuyori Shibata. This match had no right to be this good. This had a foregone conclusion, which I was 100% opposed to, since Shibata is getting back to his old self. In my opinion, he has his old hair back, he's taking more risks, especially with this one. He took a bit too much risk, in my opinion. Jericho is kind of turning into a New Japan dad, with that level of immobility. He can still do the character work, but physically he's just not there anymore. And physically, the guy cannot rock those trunks anymore. The match itself, though, was really, really good. It's Shibata's first no disqualification match ever. You don't get to see Shibata getting hit with anything in New Japan, and that reflects what's happening in the ring. Jericho gains control when he uses weapons, and then Shibata dominates the New Japan dad, Chris Jericho, when there are no weapons. So yeah, Shibata dominates the chop battle, the grappling, basically the wrestling. And then Chris Jericho regains control with use of weapons. I like the use of the hockey pucks and the table. The pucks were the scariest thing in the match since they're just like a whole dense piece of rubber that might concuss Shibata again. So that throwing the puck on his face was pretty dangerous, but they managed to make it work. I don't like the sword fighting, it's just silly. The kendo stick fight in front of each other was hot trash. That brings down the match's score. But I'm so surprised with how the trash can armor worked, since this is like the first time ever that I can remember where a dude isn't taken out when he's like put in a trash can and hit with weapons, because that thing's armor. There is sound there, but unless you're doing a dive on a dude in a trash can, it's not gonna hurt. The sound might hurt, but you can like plug your ears. I love that Shibata, being the badass that he is, rises up and then just hits Jericho while wearing the trash can. That was awesome. Spot of the night. That's what made this match like a net positive. And yeah, of course, the way the match ends, they protect Shibata so much that it makes it barely acceptable for him to lose. Like, rightfully, he should have been put through 3 flaming tables before getting taken out, but yeah, it works. It's not a clean finish. It's okay. So my rating for this is TV undercard, pay-per-view undercard match. This would have been TV main event pay-per-view undercard if you didn't have that stupid kendo stick spot that just like brought down the score down a single point. So after this is the Willow, Stat, and Stoke promo. It's a reaction to the events last week as well as Sky Blue's promo. Chris is apologizing, but we don't get a response. We should have had something. And then Willow instead addresses Sky Blue's challenge with a great natural sounding promo. This is how you do it. Willow has the it factor. And then Stoke complains about the Bucks, which further supports the ecosystem thing that I support about AEW. We get Will Washington bringing a message that they're banned from ringside, but honestly, like as a babyface, I don't think Willow would like any help. And also Sky doesn't have a faction, so what's the use with like ringside support other than like giving Chris Statlander a chance to turn heel? So yeah, this was really good. And then after this is Claudio Castagnoli versus Brian Cage. This is a dream match for me. If it was like a couple of years ago, Cage just needs to be built up, be booked better. But I like that this is on TV. But it kind of doesn't make sense since Swerve isn't feuding with BCC, and he could have. Again, like I said in my Collision review, Claudio could have been the opponent at Double or Nothing. He's carried Ring of Honor pay-per-views. Or you know what, if you don't have any faith in Claudio, you could have had it be Mox. But he's New Japan champion. But yeah, the match itself was good. Could have used better crowd reaction, but we had the meat chance. It's a fast, athletic meat match where both of these guys are aerodynamic enough, so can be AEW main eventers. They did the same tilt world backbreaker spot with Swerve, but now with Brian Cage. Claudio is so strong. This is number 2 spot of the match. Number 3 spot of the match is Claudio doing like a spinning uppercut to dodge Bryce Remsburg to get to Brian Cage. That was underrated. And my number 1 spot is the finish where Claudio does a giant swing converted to a sharpshooter for the win. Now for the bad. I don't like how slow things get. Like the 619s. Those 619s looked bad. You can't get as much speed compared to a smaller wrestler. So I don't like bigger wrestlers doing this. And there's like the sequence before the finish that ends in a Claudio European uppercut, which just seems slower. Yeah, because Brian Cage is like huge. So yeah, Brian Cage can go for like the cruiserweight moves, but not all the time. Save it up. And you have to pick and choose which you can do. And he has to pick and choose which he can do at the same speed that the smaller guys can. I'm not saying that he should take them all out, but some. Like the 619. So yeah, TV, main event, pay-per-view undercard match. I had some fun with this one. I don't know if it's match of the night though. After this is the Rocky Romero promo, which I didn't care much. This promo should have been on Rampage. It addresses the best friend story, but I would have liked him to be involved. Like, so much of a friend you are, Rocky. And I bet this crowd, or a lot of you watchers don't care much for Rocky Romero. This is just to set up the match on Rampage against Kyle O'Reilly, where Kyle beats him, I think, obviously. So after this is Mariah May versus Serena Deeb. So a nice evenly matched wrestling, which is the furthest from a Divas match I've seen in a couple of weeks. It's hard hitting with fine transitions, fine ass wrestling, and this is pretty much the baseline of what an AEW women's match should be. And it also had the best crowd reactions compared to the other matches, I think. Serena Deeb really had like the idea of bringing the crowd in by like actively asking for it, because it worked. Hip attacks don't work as much as Toni Storm's because Mariah is a lot more slender, but it's alright. She's trying to play that character. Serena is on the level of a Shida, a hater, and I'm glad she's in a feud finally. So yeah, top spots of the match are the check your calendar because it's May, which it actually is. Is that what she actually calls the move, the knee strike? Because it's a nice name. And number one spot is the single leg crab, the finish, which gets Toni Storm to throw in the towel, which protects Mariah May. Okay, this is my match of the night. So after this is the Adam Copeland and Kyle O'Reilly segment. It gets Kyle involved in a feud, I guess. They're both Canadian. He has history with Malachi Black, and I guess it foreshadows a future title reign. And it also gives Malachi someone to beat before getting to Copeland. I guess it's alright. The eyes up here line was pretty funny because Kyle definitely wasn't looking at that title and was looking at Copeland's penis. So yeah, after this is the real main event of the show, Kenny Omega's return. But before I'm going to talk about that, let's discuss diverticulitis. So first, a diverticulosis is what happens when increased pressure in your colon causes outpouchings to form. And these outpouchings usually happen at the sites where like these veins insert into the walls. And this usually presents as bright red bleeding through your asshole. The increased pressure is usually caused by a low fiber diet causing constipation, which gets you to strain more and hence increasing the pressure even more. Obesity, smoking. The fatty diet can make your poop harder to like poop out, increasing the pressure. There's also aging and genetics, but these usually form when you're like 60 plus. So God knows how Kenny got this. Maybe it's like genetics, it's in his family, or he's just shit out of luck. So diverticulitis, what happened to Kenny, happens when there's an infection caused by the large intestine's native bacteria. And that ticking time bomb that he talked about was if a perforation happens, or a hole, or if an abscess forms. It's a like sort of worse infection. It presents with fever, weight loss, left lower quadrant, abdominal pain, or even obstipation, which means so much constipation that you're unable to take shit. If a perforation, he won't be on Dynamite. His whole stomach's gonna hurt. And if God forbid there was an abscess, his abdomen wouldn't be looking as normal as it did when he showed it. So to detect this, you use a CT scan or a colonoscopy. And you treat this with antibiotics if it's not that serious. But in order to permanently treat it, it requires surgery, which I thought Kenny had already. It's been months since he was out. But since in the promo he says, give me a couple of months, so I guess he's gonna have surgery. So yeah, it's based on Hinchy staging. I'm not gonna get into that. Like he said in the promo, they're basically gonna cut out a part of his colon, put a colostomy, which is disgusting, by the way. Changing one of those is one of the worst experiences aside from cleaning a breast cancer or like dressing a burn patient. And Kenny's still on TV, Kenny is streaming, so I don't think it's that bad. I think he's playing it up. I don't think he was actually gonna die in the next 24 hours if it wasn't seen. But who knows, we don't have the full details. But yeah, now for Kenny's actual segment. So Kenny returns home to AEW and to Winnipeg. He cuts the best promo that he has ever done in the States. He educates and then plays up his disease, but he also does enough to gain the sympathy, I think, of everyone. He had the best reactions of the night, and it had me reading diverticulitis again. So this is what Omega needed. He can cut a promo, but he was never given a chance to do something like this. Kenny is AEW, and I hope he becomes champion again. Maybe 2 more times. It's like what he says is like fully formed in his head. It's not as good as MJF, but it's good enough. And he does a nice transition from colostomy to shitbags, the Young Bucks. But moment of the night is when Okada faces off against Omega. You could have like ended it here and continued with them on the same spot next week. The mentioning of the 7-star match had a purpose because there were 2 dudes in that match, and the other half has some issue with the other. So yeah, we have a nice face-off, basically guarantees a match between the two of them, and then Kenny's beaten down really badly. Like, make sure you punch him in the left lower quadrant. But it's been so long that, like, the 7 days of antibiotics have taken effect. It's probably not currently inflaming. So yeah, FTR come in. It's nice because they're like the Young Bucks' natural enemy. They're obviously going to team up with whoever's going to face them, so I guess he's with Omega now. And this transitions to Rampage, where all of them are beaten down. And then Kenny's pushed off the stretcher. It's brutal stuff. And yeah, this was a well done segment. Very good. This deserved a higher rating. But it can't carry the whole show, which had okay wrestling. So yeah, I like this Dynamite, but it needed better wrestling. Like, if you had Collisions matches with Dynamite segments, that would have been like the best show of the year. But it's not. But there's story progression, so I guess it's okay. So yeah, thanks for watching. Bye-bye.